In the morning, techies! Welcome to today's News and Guidance Show for Saturday, November 15th. Coming at you live from the fishbowl, let's look at today's items. I'm Figgins Stefis, and I will be your guide today, navigating a stack of sources that literally range from the hyper-local politics of New York City sidewalks to the deepest, most surprising corners of global cyber espionage.
And I'm Metaletter here as your analyst, and today's mission is definitely a challenging one. The information is so disparate, but that's the modern reality, isn't it?
It really is.
We are toggling between high-stakes municipal policies, think the economics of free buses and massive utility rate wars, and then, just a second later, we're diving into highly technical global security alerts.
We're talking core internet protocols and state-level AI espionage. It's a wild mix.
It is.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We are here to serve you, the learner, by not just summarizing these facts, but by extracting the truly critical, high-impact insights. We need to connect the policy details of a major new progressive administration in NYC with the global forces and technical vulnerabilities that are shaping the second half of November 2025.
It's a massive task.
Yeah, but we're going to dive deep into every single source nugget we have.
And the juxtaposition is fascinating when you really look at it. I mean, we have to analyze the complexity of deciding whether a decades-old tradition like horse carriages should continue, while at the same time understanding how threat actors are using AI models to automate sophisticated cyber campaigns.
Right.
This contrast is the essence of modern governance and, digital life.
Absolutely. But before we jump into that political earthquake in New York, we have a special message from our incredible supporters. We run on good information, but we also run on fuel that keeps us focused. If you are tackling a deep dive of your own, you need good fats and maybe a little caffeine kick.
I think we can all use that.
You should get yourself some Oche butter. Make sure you try the new crunchy coffee Hodel butter. I'm telling you, it's made with pecans, and it is absolutely delicious. It is the perfect blend of energy and focus.
It really is good.
So if you want to fuel your own deep dive, go to arshigood.us to order.
Highly recommended fuel for digesting today's exceptionally complex material.
All right, let's unpack this. We start today in what is probably the most dramatic urban center in the world. New York City.
Yeah.
A seismic political shift has just taken place, and it demands our immediate analysis. So on November 4th, 2025, New York City completed a political transformation. Zohran Mamdani, a 34-year-old Democratic socialist, secured the mayoral victory. And this wasn't just, a change of party. This feels like a foundational shift in the city's political identity and its policy direction.
The specifics of that win are just crucial for understanding the political mandate that comes out of it. Mamdani secured 50.4% of the vote. He was up against a field that included the veteran Andrew Cuomo and the conservative activist Curtis Sliwa.
So 50.4%. It's the slim majority. It's not a landslide.
No, but it is statistically significant enough. And it empowered him to immediately declare this win a mandate for change, which, he emphasized very strongly in his post-election addresses.
And when we talk about change, we have to recognize the historic significance of the man himself. He represents 4 unprecedented firsts for the city. He will be the city's first Muslim mayor, the first South Asian mayor, the first immigrant mayor.
All massive demographic milestones.
Absolutely. And also one of its youngest mayors ever. This is a huge symbolic, social, and political shift for a city that, despite its diversity, has often been defined by these, entrenched political machines.
And it goes beyond local identity, too. His election immediately placed New York City politics onto the national stage.
Oh, so?
Well, Mamdani publicly challenged Donald Trump right after securing the victory.
Wow, okay.
That signals that his administration views itself not just as a municipal government dealing with, potholes in schools, but as a major progressive counterforce. They're prepared to engage directly in national political debates, framing NYC as a center of resistance to certain national narratives.
And he's shown zero interest in a slow transition.
Not at all.
The sources make it clear that he declared his intent to immediately implement his agenda upon taking office. So we're talking about an administration that is hitting the ground running.
A laser focus on rapid change.
Right, specifically targeting affordability and progressive policies explicitly designed to serve working New Yorkers who are just, grappling with the city's astronomical cost of living.
And the platform he ran on was not simply aspirational. It focused on these deeply felt economic pain points. There are 3 core proposals that absolutely mobilized the base and I think really drove his campaign to victory.
Okay, let's break them down. The first one, and you could argue it's the most direct economic economic stabilizer for young families is free childcare. In a city where housing is insane, the cost of quality childcare often rivals rent. I mean, it forces really difficult career choices for people.
Right. So removing that massive economic burden is a direct, tangible lifeline for working parents.
No question.
The second is the rent freeze proposal, which aims to immediately halt or severely limit rent increases, addressing the core housing crisis.
And the third?
The third pillar, and this is a truly ambitious infrastructure change, is fare-free buses.
Okay, let's look at the complexity of actually implementing these. Let's start with the rent freeze. A rent freeze sounds wonderful to tenants. I mean, who wouldn't want that? But what are the political and legal complexities Mamdani immediately faces? You can't just wave a wand and freeze millions of private contracts.
Exactly. This is where the policy meets, the hard wall of reality. In New York, much of the rent stabilization is governed not just by the city, but by state laws and bodies.
So he needs Albany.
He absolutely needs Albany. Implementing an absolute freeze, as opposed to, say, a rent cap, which just limits the percentage increase, that will trigger immediate, highly funded legal challenges from landlord organizations.
And their argument would be?
They'd argue it constitutes an illegal taking of property value without compensation. So, to get this done, Mamdani needs to secure cooperation from state legislators in Albany, which will be an immense political battle. It will demand extensive negotiation and, potentially major concessions on other issues.
That makes that victory margin of 50.4% look suddenly very, very thin when you're facing Albany in a barrage of lawsuits.
It does.
Okay, now let's move to the free buses. This is where that progressive social justice agenda intersects heavily with infrastructure and, I guess, climate action.
Right. This proposal making all city buses fare-free is a huge undertaking. The estimate is that it would cost well over $500 million annually in lost revenue. Transit advocates are, as you can imagine, massively optimistic that this goal will finally be realized. They're framing it as both a measure of equity and a significant piece of climate action.
But where does the funding come from? Is it new taxes? Are they diverting existing transit funds? Because the MTA, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, is famously underfunded already.
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? The sources indicate the funding mechanism is expected to rely on a combination of things.
Like what?
Increased congestion pricing revenue, for one. Potential new progressive taxes on high-value real estate transactions. And redirecting certain municipal operating funds.
So the goal is?
The goal is that by making buses free, you immediately encourage ridership, you reduce vehicle miles traveled by private cars, and you provide immediate, equitable access to jobs and services for low-income populations who rely most heavily on bus routes.
So it shifts the whole perception of transit.
Exactly. It goes from a user-pays service to an essential public utility, much like, police or fire departments.
And while climate action wasn't the main emphasis of his campaign, affordability was really the hook.
Right, that was the main message.
The sources clearly point out that his core proposals have inherent environmental benefits. Building decarbonization, for example. It's a necessary measure for climate goals, but he champions it because it reduces utility bills for residents.
It's a shrewd way to link economic relief directly to environmental stewardship.
Very shrewd.
And this post-election political pressure generated an immediate, dramatic win on a major infrastructure cost issue, which shows the raw political power of this new mandate. I'm talking about the Con Edison rate hike reversal.
This is a truly stunning outcome. I mean, Con Edison, one of the city's primary utility providers, had proposed these massive punishing rate increases that would have hammered every household and small business in New York.
The initial proposals were frankly shocking. The electric rate hike proposal was around 11.4%.
That's huge.
And the gas rate proposal was even higher at approximately 13.3%. The dramatic reduction achieved here, and it's likely due to immediate, intense pressure from the incoming administration and public outcry. It's massive. The electric rate is now planned for only 2.8%.
Wow.
And the gas rate increases down to 2%. That is roughly a 75% reduction on the electric increase and an 85% reduction on the gas increase.
That is an unbelievable reversal of fortune for consumers. But let's ask the critical question here.
Go ahead.
How does a utility like Con Ed recover that huge revenue gap? Are we just trading immediate cost savings for long-term infrastructure decay?
That's the inherent risk, and local leaders are already pointing it out.
So they're worried.
They are. While the public relief is real, leaders in areas like Westchester are still critical, arguing that any increase is too high, but also worrying about that long-term trade-off. Lower utility revenue often means cutting back on capital expenditures, investments in grid resiliency, modernizing aging pipes, and transitioning to cleaner energy infrastructure.
So a political victory now.
May lead to slower climate progress or increased grid vulnerability down the line, especially during extreme weather events.
Okay. So moving from utility bills to city staffing, the administration also addressed the lingering, very divisive issue of the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. They are offering to reinstate approximately 2,900 terminated civil service employees who refuse the mandate.
This is a massive olive branch. It's a political gesture aimed at resolving deep internal divisions and easing union tensions, particularly within the NYPD and FDNY.
But the compromise is carefully structured, right?
Yeah.
To mitigate the city's liability.
Oh, very carefully. And there's a crucial detail that defines that compromise.
What?
Those rehired will not receive back pay or credit for their time away from employment.
Okay.
It's a pragmatic political compromise. The city avoids potentially huge financial liability for 2 years' worth of lost wages, while the employees get their careers back.
It tries to satisfy both sides.
It attempts to satisfy both the political requirement to enforce the original mandate and the administrative requirement to restore staffing levels.
But this move immediately created tension, as you would expect. We saw it in the post-election panic. Social media claims just circulated wildly about a mass NYPD walkout.
Yeah, that was all over the place.
A protest of the new progressive administration.
Thankfully, a police spokesperson definitively denied those claims, confirming there is no walkout. But the incident underscores just how volatile the political environment is.
And how quickly misinformation can spread.
Exactly. Especially after an electoral upset that changes the power structure so dramatically, the administration will have to operate in an environment where even minor personnel decisions are instantly politicized.
And finally, we have to address the quintessential, often ridiculous, New York local legislative battle, the horse carriage controversy.
Oh, the horses. This debate is so emotive, and it never seems to die.
And we saw a specific legislative setback for animal welfare advocates here.
We did. The NYC Council Health Committee rejected Ryder's Law.
And that was the law aiming to phase out horse-drawn carriages in Central Park, right? And replace them with electric vehicles.
That's the one.
So why did this specific legislation fail, especially in what we're describing as a very progressive political environment?
It failed because of intense opposition from the Transport Workers Union, the TWU.
Ah, the union.
The TWU supported the rejection. They were prioritizing the protection of the existing jobs and the traditional institution itself, arguing that these are safe, regulated jobs.
So it shows the progressive movement isn't a monolith.
Not at all. Job protection for union members often outweighs animal welfare concerns in specific legislative votes, and the administration will now inherit this incredibly contentious local battle that pits tradition against modern ethics.
It is truly fascinating that we can go from the intricacies of implementing a massive citywide rent freeze and securing a multi-billion-dollar utility rate reduction down to the fate of a few dozen horses.
All in the same breath.
All within the context of the same new administration. But that's New York for you.
It is.
Okay, this political deep dive has been necessary, but we have to transition because all those policies, from stabilizing utility costs to running fare-free buses, they rely fundamentally on robust, secure digital systems.
And those systems are under constant global threat.
Exactly.
That's right. So we move from the highly physical infrastructure battles of NYC to the digital front lines, where the threats are global, increasingly state-sponsored, and leveraging, well, everything from decades-old protocols to cutting-edge AI, all at the same time.
Let's start with just the sheer scale of illicit revenue generation that U.S. federal authorities are grappling with. Much of it is linked directly to foreign state actors or their proxy networks. The numbers are just staggering.
They absolutely are. There's a new U.S. federal task force created specifically to disrupt Chinese cryptocurrency scam networks. And they are now reporting that these operations are defrauding Americans of nearly $10 billion annually.
$10 billion a year.
Annually. And this is not just, a collection of small-time criminals. This is an industrialized scam economy. You hear it called pig butchering.
Right. Where
victims are lured into romance scams, financially groomed, and then convinced to invest in fake crypto platforms. The scale demands a high-level, coordinated federal response. I mean, this is a massive and sustained wealth drain from the American economy.
And China isn't the only state actor focusing on illicit revenue generation. We also saw major news from the U.S. DOJ regarding regarding North Korea's relentless efforts to generate revenue outside of international sanctions.
Yes, 5 individuals recently pleaded guilty in schemes designed to funnel money back to Pyongyang.
And the sources detail 2 primary, pretty sophisticated methods they were using to get inside U.S. firms.
Yeah, the first was remote IT worker fraud.
Yeah.
North Korean operators, often using stolen or fabricated identities and VPNs, posed as legitimate, highly skilled remote tech workers.
And once they were hired.
Once hired, they used that access to steal corporate data or financial assets. The second, and perhaps more lucrative method, was direct cryptocurrency theft, targeting U.S. firms and exchanges with sophisticated hacking campaigns.
So it confirms their economic warfare strategy is highly diversified.
And specifically targeting the U.S. financial and tech sectors.
And here is where the technology starts getting truly advanced and, frankly, kind of alarming. We saw Anthropic, the AI company behind the Claude model, make a pretty controversial claim regarding advanced espionage operations.
They did. They claimed that a Chinese state-sponsored group identified as GTG-1002 conducted a cyber espionage operation that was largely automated.
Automated how?
Via the misuse of their Claude Code AI model. The implication here is profound. It's that the AI wasn't just a tool used by a human, but potentially the primary engine driving the repetitive and highly technical aspects of the espionage campaign itself.
That suggestion, an automated state-level cyber attack using generative AI to write, debug, and execute code, that is terrifying. But why was this claim met with skepticism?
That skepticism is crucial for you, the learner, to understand. The counterpoint in the security community largely centers on definitional ambiguity and, let's be honest, marketing.
Okay.
It is very difficult to prove that the AI was the primary automation engine versus being a highly sophisticated co-pilot that rapidly accelerated what a human could do.
So was it driving the car, or was it the world's best GPS?
Exactly. Skeptics question whether the AI model truly initiated the strategy or merely executed code writing and analysis tasks faster than a human could.
And the marketing angle.
Well, it's often noted that security firms sometimes sensationalize AI, using threats to justify selling AI-powered defense products.
Right. The threat is AI, so you need our AI to stop it.
Precisely. However, even if the AI was just a co-pilot, the speed and scale it enables for state actors represents a massive paradigm shift in cyber defense. There's no question about that.
Okay, so regardless of who is doing the hacking, they're targeting widely used enterprise systems.
Yeah.
And we really need to turn our attention to the soft underbelly of corporate networks.
Agreed. Let's start with Microsoft, where a security update itself is causing major headaches.
Right, they're investigating a frustrating bug causing the Windows 10 KB5068781 Extended Security Update, or ESU, to fail installation.
And just to explain ESU for you, our listener, Windows 10 officially passed its end-of-life date. ESU is essentially a paid subscription that large corporations have to buy to continue receiving critical security patches.
So it's paid life support.
A very good way to put it. The bug is causing installation failures, returning 0 by 800 S0922 errors. And crucially, this is specifically affecting devices using corporate licensing.
So for a large company running thousands of these machines.
For a large enterprise, a failure in their purchase security lifeline creates a massive and very costly window of vulnerability. They're literally paying for protection they can't deploy.
And the threat actors, particularly ransomware groups, they know this. They're specifically going after virtualization platforms, which are the absolute backbone of modern data centers.
Oh, yeah.
The Akira ransomware operation has been observed encrypting Nutanix AHV virtual machines.
This is a devastating trend. Nutanix AHV stands for Acropolis Hypervisor. It's a major, widely used, hyperconverged infrastructure solution.
Meaning it integrates compute, storage, virtualization, all in one system.
Right. So encrypting the VMs means devastating business operations. You're locking up servers, applications, and customer data all at the same time. This strategy shows that ransomware groups are moving up the stack.
They're targeting the core infrastructure.
Exactly. Core components like hypervisors, rather than just individual servers or workstations, they're maximizing disruption.
Shifting to home and small business hardware, ASUS released new firmware to patch a critical authentication bypass security flaw. This was impacting their DSL series routers.
And we can't overstate how dangerous an authentication bypass flaw is. It means an attacker could potentially circumvent the login process entirely to gain unauthorized administrative access to the router.
And the router is the gateway to your whole network.
It is the network gateway. Once it's compromised, the attacker can redirect traffic, monitor all your activity, or launch internal attacks against your other devices. Immediate patching is non-negotiable for anyone using these.
And finally, a major consumer-facing breach that required mass mandatory notification. DoorDash disclosed a data breach that occurred in October, affecting millions of customers.
Yeah, this breach was widespread. It impacted users across 4 regions: the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand.
So because the company had to issue mandatory notifications, customers in those regions just have to assume their personal information was compromised.
You have to. Names, addresses, emails, and potentially masked payment information. Vigilance against phishing attacks that might leverage that stolen data is now absolutely essential for millions of users globally.
Okay, this is where we get into the really surprising, almost historical technical nuggets that define modern hacking. Let's talk about a blast from the past, the return of the finger protocol.
This is the perfect example of infrastructure archaeology being weaponized.
Infrastructure archaeology, I like that.
The finger command protocol is a decades-old relic. I mean, it dates back to the 1970s. It was designed simply to provide information about a user on a remote system, like their login name or last activity. Benign stuff.
So how do you abuse a 1970s protocol for modern malware?
It's brilliant in its simplicity and its stealth. Threat actors are using the protocol to retrieve remote commands executed during click-fix malware attacks.
Wait, so they hide the commands in the response?
That's it. They essentially hide the next stage of their attack payload, the commands the malware should execute next in the otherwise benign-looking response of the finger command.
And because the protocol is so old?
Because it's old, unencrypted, and often overlooked by modern firewalls and security monitoring tools, it offers a low-noise, high-stealth channel for command and control.
C2.
It's a perfect example of exploiting the digital plumbing that everyone forgot about.
Okay, let's go from old tech being misused to cutting-edge offensive security research. We have a highly technical concept here, the no-leak, no-problem analysis. It details how to bypass address space layout randomization, or ASLR, to gain remote code execution, RCE.
Right, this requires a technical deep dive for the learner. ASLR is a fundamental defense mechanism in modern operating systems.
And it works by randomizing memory locations.
Exactly. It randomizes the memory locations of system code, making it nearly impossible for attackers to reliably execute code because they don't know where their target functions are located in memory.
And traditionally, to bypass that, an attacker needs an info leak first.
Correct. They need a detective step to read memory and figure out the randomized location.
And the ROP chain.
ROP, or return-oriented programming, is the actual execution technique. It involves chaining together tiny snippets of existing legitimate code already present in memory to perform the attacker's malicious function.
Like using letters cut out of a magazine to write a ransom note?
That is a perfect analogy. The novelty of this no-leak, no-problem analysis is achieving RCE using that ROP chain without needing a memory leak first.
So they can do it blind.
It is a fundamental breakthrough for the offense. It means a highly sophisticated attacker can achieve RCE with fewer steps, less reliance on system information disclosure, and much higher reliability. Bypassing ASLR without a leak is like throwing a dart blindfolded and hitting the bullseye. It significantly reduces the window of detection.
That level of sophistication is astonishing. Now, let's look at chaos in the developer world. The NPM package registry, which is critical for JavaScript development globally, was hit by the Indonesian food swarm.
This was essentially a self-spreading pollution event targeting the software supply chain. The package was published, and then it immediately began spawning high volumes of new junk packages every 7 seconds, just flooding the registry.
So not directly destructive, but...
Yeah. But it creates noise, it slows down legitimate development work, and it forces maintainers into a tedious cleanup cycle. It's a form of digital vandalism that directly impacts the integrity and trust developers' place in that registry.
And finally, in this section, a piece of good news for the smaller independent developer community. Google is backpedaling slightly on new restrictive identity verification rules for Android developers.
Yeah, they're modifying the rules. They will now allow accounts for limited app distribution, and importantly, they're going to permit users to install applications from unverified developers.
That's a big deal for some people.
It provides a needed measure of flexibility and reduces friction, especially for smaller or niche developers, hobbyists, and those outside of major Western markets who found the original stringent verification requirements either restrictive or financially prohibitive. It shows a response to developer community backlash.
So we've tracked a mandate for free buses in NYC, analyzed the extreme sophistication of an ROP chain, and saw a state actor using a 1970s protocol to hide malware commands. It's time now to pull back and look at the global currents affecting the American public.
Tying the technical complexity to the broader context of national and international stability.
Exactly.
Starting with international tension, we received a pretty serious escalation regarding Venezuela. A high-level U.S. official has made the stark statement that the table is being set for possible military action against the Maduro regime.
That language, the table is being set, that implies far more than just rhetoric.
Oh, much more.
It suggests intelligence gathering is ramping up, logistical prepositioning of assets may be underway, and diplomatic groundwork is being finalized to establish a justification for intervention. This is a major high-stakes escalation for a conflict in our own hemisphere.
And on the domestic economic front, we saw a move by Donald Trump aimed at providing immediate visible relief to consumers grappling with inflation. He decided to scrap tariffs on tropical fruit, coffee, and beef.
This is a direct policy lever aimed right at the cost of living crisis. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods.
Right.
While they are often designed to protect domestic producers, removing them, in theory, immediately lowers the cost of importing these essential commodities.
Which should translate to lower prices at the grocery store.
Should. It's a political move aimed at immediate, broad consumer benefit, even if it draws criticism from relevant domestic producers.
And we also received confirmation that the longest government shutdown in U.S. history has finally concluded.
Finally.
Details surrounding its end are now available, and this provides a much-needed injection of stability back into the federal apparatus after an extended period of internal friction.
It allows agencies crucial for national security and public services to return to full operation.
Exactly. And in the courts, a judge issued an indefinite ban preventing Trump from fining the University of California, the UC system, over alleged discrimination.
So that highlights ongoing legal battles regarding the limits of federal executive power when it confronts large, independent state-level institutions.
Precisely.
Okay, moving to crucial health and social issues, we have a tragic story that serves as a critical health alert that far too many people overlook. A New Jersey man was killed by a tick-borne red meat allergy.
This is alpha-gal syndrome, and it is a terrifying health development. It's triggered by a bite from the Lone Star tick, which transmits a specific sugar molecule called alpha-gal into the human body.
And the immune system reacts.
It reacts by producing antibodies to fight this sugar. The problem is that red meat, so mammalian meat like beef and pork, also contains alpha-gal. So when the affected person eats red meat, their immune system launches a severe, sometimes delayed, and potentially fatal allergic reaction.
How widespread is this risk, and what makes it such a critical alert now?
The risk is expanding because the range of the Lone Star tick is spreading geographically due to climate shifts.
So it's moving.
It's moving. What was once isolated to certain southeastern states is moving north and west, increasing the population exposed. The fatality in New Jersey serves as a grim reminder that this isn't just an inconvenience. It requires absolute dietary vigilance and immediate medical attention upon exposure.
On the social trend front, the sources detail a complex and potentially worrying trend regarding firearm purchases. It seems to be driven by societal polarization. More liberals, people of color, and LGBTQ Americans are buying guns.
And the motivation is the key insight here. They are explicitly motivated by fear.
Right.
This fear is rooted in the current intense social and political polarization. Groups that have historically been less likely to own firearms are now seeking means of self-protection because they perceive themselves as vulnerable to politically or socially motivated violence.
So it indicates a deep and growing level of societal distrust.
A distrust in institutions to protect them, leading to increased reliance on self-defense, which further complicates the national dialogue around gun ownership.
We also received a grim update on the state of scientific research. Faltering funding, particularly from federal grants, is causing young brain scientists to rethink their careers entirely.
They're often choosing more financially stable private sector jobs.
And when research funding falters, it creates a brain drain. This doesn't just halt a single experiment, it impacts the entire pipeline of future scientific talent.
And brain science, in particular, is crucial for addressing massive societal health challenges like Alzheimer's, addiction, and mental health disorders.
So losing early career scientists due to instability
Is a long-term detriment to national innovation and public health outcomes.
And finally, a devastating logistical failure with severe humanitarian consequences. A U.S. purchased stock of birth control designated for sub-Saharan Africa spoiled while being held in Belgium.
Yeah, due to warehousing and management issues.
This represents a monumental failure of oversight and logistics.
When critical medical aid, particularly something like birth control that is essential for public health, maternal safety, and women's rights in recipient countries, is allowed to spoil due to preventable warehousing errors, the consequences are immediate.
It's not just a financial loss.
No, it's a profound setback for public health initiatives across a massive region.
Okay, we have to briefly touch on the media landscape and an impartial observation regarding the coverage of major news events.
Right.
The sources noted the coverage detailing that right-wing media largely shrugged off the latest release of documents related to the Epstein case.
And this is purely a report on the media's reaction and consumption habits. It's not a judgment.
No, not at all.
It just reflects the ongoing media fragmentation and how different political ecosystems choose which high-profile stories they prioritize, amplify, or downplay for their specific, often ideologically siloed audiences.
Shifting back to our hacker headline sampler, we have a few rapid-fire notes from the digital infrastructure front that are essential for sysadmins and the security conscious.
First, we saw an investigation launched by AdGuard DNS into suspicious pressure being exerted on the web archiving service archive.today.
And archive services are vital.
Absolutely vital for historical record-keeping, preserving information, and fighting censorship globally. Any targeted pressure, whether it's technical or legal, on these essential preservation services is a significant threat to information integrity.
There's also the Mozilla SSL configuration generator tool. This is always a useful resource for system administrators trying to nail down secure transport layer settings.
Yeah, ensuring they are using the latest protocols and ciphers to protect user data traveling across the internet. It's a great tool.
And a key technical context note. An article detailing TCP, the Transmission Control Protocol, is described as the fundamental workhorse of the internet.
And this is important because while we talk about AI and RCE, the entire digital world runs on stable, robust, decades-old protocols like TCP/IP.
It underscores the importance of the old infrastructure.
Especially since we just discussed abusing the finger protocol.
Exactly. And speaking of old technology that won't die, we noted the 25th anniversary of the classic PC game, No One Lives Forever.
Game.
A beloved classic, but it still cannot be legitimately purchased or downloaded.
No, due to complex intellectual property rights issues. It's a really lamentable case of licensing battles just keeping cultural history locked away from new audiences.
And circling back to ground level, specifically New York City, we can conclude our context section with a cultural addendum. A list of specific new restaurant openings in November 2025, providing a snapshot of the city's continuing vitality and recovery, with new spots like Bodhi Bar, Mama Misu, and Kitty Sullivan's opening their doors across the boroughs.
It's a small, humanizing reminder that beneath all the political and technical chaos, life and culture continue to thrive.
It is.
And we must also pause to note a recent loss in the music world. Americana troubadour and alt-country singer-songwriter Todd Snyder passed away at age 59.
A profound loss for those who appreciated his wit, his wisdom, and his unique storytelling ability. So this has been an extraordinary and exhausting synthesis.
It really has.
We went from analyzing the hyper-local policy fight over whether a horse carriage ban would survive the new NYC administration and the resulting tension with the NYPD, all the way to global network abuse, utilizing the surprising decades-old finger protocol.
We've spanned extreme social polarization, the economics of tariff elimination, and the cutting-edge mathematics of bypassing kernel defenses.
It truly is the full spectrum of our modern existence. The political, the practical, the global, and the incredibly complex technical infrastructure that underpins all of it.
Yeah, the sources demand that we constantly adjust our focus, from the physical sidewalk where people need affordable transit and housing, to the server room where state actors are leveraging AI to automate espionage.
And in reflecting on that intense political environment in New York, the heat surrounding the Con Ed rate reduction, the tension over the vaccine mandate compromise, and the emotional lobbying over the horse carriages, we can turn to our proverb of the day.
Proverbs 15.1, it states, "A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger."
A classic.
And in a highly contentious political environment, like the one Mamdani now faces, this proverb emphasizes the necessity of measured, strategic communication.
So it's not just what you do, but how you talk about it.
Exactly. Winning the utility rate reduction by 75% is a huge accomplishment, But the leadership must communicate that victory while using a soft answer to acknowledge the ongoing criticism that any increase is still too high.
To prevent that disappointment from turning into destructive wrath.
Right, or opposition that derails the larger agenda.
A perfect connection. Now let's wrap this up with a final provocative thought for you, our listener.
Yeah.
Something to mull over that ties the extremes of today's information together.
Okay.
Reflecting on the rapid policy shifts in NYC-like Mamdani's ability to drive a radical progressive agenda immediately, and the sheer sophistication of cyber threats like the ASLR bypass analysis and the AI espionage claims, this is the question that demands consideration.
In a world where state actors automate espionage with AI and governments rapidly implement radical policy agendas, which moves faster, the technical ability to defend our systems or the political will to protect vulnerable populations.
It makes you think about where we should be prioritizing resources, defense, or social welfare. When both are moving at lightning speed, a fascinating and difficult choice.
It really is.
Now for the clip of the day, the single most memorable takeaway from this entire stack of sources, and for me, I'm choosing the surprisingly sophisticated yet archaic misuse of legacy technology.
You're referring to the finger protocol abuse.
Absolutely. The fact that the 1970s finger protocol, a command designed simply to see who was logged into a remote machine, is now being used by advanced threat actors in modern click-fix malware attacks to retrieve command and control instructions remotely.
It's incredible.
It demonstrates that nothing in technology is ever truly obsolete, only forgotten, and then repurposed for nefarious ends. It shows astonishing creativity from the offense and demands that defenders look not just at new tech, but at the very foundations of the internet.
An excellent choice. It perfectly encapsulates the blend of history and cutting-edge threat analysis that define today's deep dive.
Thank you for helping us dissect this incredible stack of information.
My pleasure.
Adios, folks.